Hello, class. Today we'll be discussing Chapter 6, Vocational Rehabilitation, Counseling, Use of Vocational Evaluations. You've already completed the applicant interview, and you've gotten the information from the individual about their disability, their diagnosis, and how this is an impediment to their acquiring employment or maintaining employment. So what are you to do? Because at the end of the day, we have to have an employment goal that we agree on with the consumer. So, if an individual is there and they would like to maintain their employment and they have a proven track record of employment, then the chances of you sending them for a vocational evaluation are almost zero or none. But if an individual doesn't have anything to support, say, work history that relates to the employment goal that they are thinking about, then a vocational evaluation is necessary. One, because you have to provide some type of justification or rationale as to why you are sending this individual to school to train to become a nurse, a doctor, an attorney, an engineer, given their diagnosis and the impediment that they have to work. Now, if the individual had a 4.0, graduated from high school, and said they wanted to go to school to become a nurse, you would think, well, hmm, given that you have a 4.0, you graduated from high school with a 4.0, that I think that you probably have that ability to reach this employment goal. Your gut, that gut instinct tells you that. But remember, that's insufficient as far as what your agency is going to expect from you. Now, remember that you are managing this case. You are the professional in the room. And any decision that you make requires that you have some type of proof, something that's more concrete, and proof that this individual can satisfactorily acquire this particular type of employment. So, the vocational evaluation is a perfect tool to use. The vocational evaluation. There are vocational evaluations and assessments that are completed for VR clients by for state VR or federal VR agencies. I want you to pause this video or this PowerPoint and look at this video. There's a link here, or you can copy and paste the title WWRC Vocational Evaluation and Career Assessments into YouTube, and you'll be able to access the video. For this particular video, the next video I would like for you to watch is what is the vocational evaluation? Now, this particular video focuses on vocational evaluations and their use when you're working with a workers' compensation agency. Their evaluations are somewhat the same. They're the same, but their use of them might be a little different. When I say a little different, is they're basically using them to help an individual maintain their employment with the agency. And if they maintain that employment there, what type of position could they work in? The video will give you a better description and idea of that. So please pause the slideshow and go to a different screen or browser and review the video. Now that you've seen the videos, you have an idea of what vocational rehabilitation um, use of evaluations might be needed within this process. Now, the purpose of the vocational evaluation is to provide data regarding a person's ability to work, their preferences they have for the different type of jobs. This is something that you've already discussed with them during your initial interview. Their capacity to perform a variety of vocational roles. If the role that they would like to work or the job that they would like to work in, if they can't work in that, then it might be a position that's similar or something within a particular type of work setting that's similar to the type that they would like to work in, and they can possibly work in that, or the need for training in specific and general skills required for success in employment. That's those individuals, such as the person that would like to be the pediatric nurse. What are we going to do? How are we going to show that this person actually has this ability and this skill set? The vocational evaluation in itself uses several types of instruments. It is composed of psychometric testing, work samples, situational assessments, and ecological assessments. We'll get into those in the next slide. Now, don't let these things frighten you when you're thinking, oh, psychometric testing, work samples, situational assessments, and things like this. What is this? Is this something that I actually have to do? This is not something that you'll have to do. You can have this completed by the vocational evaluator that you send your client to have this test done. This testing is really a really good tool to use when you're doing some type of career counseling or vocational guidance. The vocational evaluation, when we're looking at the psychometric testing that's done, this is designed to measure the person's intelligence, their vocational aptitudes, their achievements, their personality, and vocational interest. Now, psychometrics, we're looking at things such as cognitive abilities, things that are more cognitive. If you think psychometrics, think more cognitive, okay? So this intelligence testing that we're talking about, when we're talking about from the psychometric testing, intelligence testing, one of the assessments that's used on the vocational evaluation is the Wechsler Adult Intelligence Scale, which is the WACE. In the book, they list it as the WACE 3. Currently, we are using the WACE 4, okay? This is the most widely used intelligence scale out there. It's basically used to assess if you do the full scale evaluation. They're going to look at things such as their verbal and performance IQs. They'll also look at the full scale IQ. What is this person's IQ? This is what we use for that type of testing. Again, I'd like to remind you that these tests are used to measure the intelligence and cognitive abilities of the individual. Now, one thing that I like to state when it comes to the verbal and performance, if there is a statistically significant difference between these two on the test, then this could mean that the person actually has a learning disability. Whenever I got the evaluations, and that's one of the places that I would definitely go and look at first to see what their verbal was like versus their performance, those cognitive skills versus their performance. I looked at that, and based on my training, I knew that, okay, there's possibly a learning disability here that may have gone undetected. So if that was the case, then I definitely needed to make sure I shared this with the consumer or possibly got some additional testing, as we indicated prior for the medical evaluation. Maybe I can send them for some psychological testing to find out if they actually have a learning disability and Once they become aware, then we'll work with them on that. Now, another thing I like to indicate about this particular test is that persons that are depressed, there's been research out there that indicate that individuals that are generally depressed will perform very poor or have a poor performance IQ versus their verbal IQ. So if you have an individual that was depressed the day they went in and or that has been diagnosed with depression or something like that, then this is something that you should take in consideration. And when you meet with them again, just ask them, how was the exam? How are you feeling on that day? So if their scores come back and you think that there's some inconsistency in what they've done in school or work or somewhere like that previously, then on and tests that they've taken there, then that might be a reason. So you could check on that, and you can also inquire with the person that administered the test to follow up. Aptitude and achievement test. Now, there is some aptitude testing done and achievement tests that are completed. One thing that I want to tell you, the difference between the two, aptitude and achievement. Aptitude means their potential. How high can you go? Achievements means what they've already learned. What have you already achieved in life? So remember, there's the difference between the two. Aptitude, we're looking at your potential. How high can you go? And that achievement, you've already come. Where are you right now at this point? Now, the aptitude assessments assesses the individual potential for skill or knowledge acquisition. That is completed through or assessed through the General Aptitude Battery Test, which is the GATB. I've taken it before, and I will not share my score with that. But I will tell you this. If I would have used it as a predictor of my abilities and my skills, hmm, I'll let you just ponder on that and try to figure out exactly what it was, what my score was. I'm not going to tell you. But anyway, I don't want to make this all about me. So, achievement test. They assess how much an individual has learned. You have the Woodcock-Johnson and the wide range achievement test, which is considered the RAT4. These tests are administered, and if you have an opportunity, because if you haven't already taken your testing and assessments class, if you haven't, you will somewhere along the way, and you might be surprised at what your score is. You might have achieved a whole lot more than you think. All right? Personality test. This is done to identify emotional or interpersonal issues that an individual might have. When we're talking about personality testing, now this is different from the psychological evaluation that's done where you have the an actual diagnosis of a personality disorder. This is not what we're talking about here. So don't get that confused. This is basically we're looking at personality tests to assess when we're talking about interpersonal skills. Interpersonal skills are how do you get along with other people? How do you interact with other people? We're not talking about those intrapersonal skills, which leads more to personality disorders or diagnosis. We're looking at how do you get along in an environment? Are you nasty with people? Are you ugly with people? Are you aggressive? Are you assertive? How are you? How do you get along with people? They also these tests test an individual's motivational and attitudinal characteristics. It's used in VR to identify personality strengths or deficits that affect the ability to adjust to work demands in the environment. Now, what are we talking about? We all have strengths and we have weaknesses. Some of us, if we choose to accept and agree that with this, then follow along with me here. Okay? Let me give you an example of that. Now, if you haven't, then you will, in one of your classes, you will be assigned to work with a group or work with another individual. In the groups, there's always one individual that takes on a lot of the responsibility with getting the task completed. Sometimes these individuals are seen as having a strong personality, or they just taking over and want to control things because they have the desire to get it done and to get it done right. Now, that would be considered a strength if they're very organized and they have the ability to pull everyone together and to have everyone working on one accord. But it can be a weakness if they just want to control everything and feel like there's only one way it should be done and it's their way. That's considered a weakness. So that's the things that we're looking at when we're talking about personality strengths and deficits. Now, the most popular test and the test that's used the most is the Minnesota Multi-Phase Personality Inventory. Now, this particular inventory has 16 personality types. 16 personality types. Okay? Next, we have vocational interest. The evaluation will include something discussing or identifying jobs the consumer is likely to have greater job satisfaction with. Greater job satisfaction with. Now, we're talking about vocational interest. Now, does this mean because the individual is likely to have greater job satisfaction in this particular area that this is the job that we should choose for them? Or this is the job that we are in agreement with? No. These are just their interests. And there's a test where there's many questions that they'll go through, and then they'll put them in a particular category and say, well, this category, this person's based upon their interest and the way they answered these questions on this evaluation, then this is the type of job or job area where they're likely to be satisfied and enjoy the work that they're doing. But this does not mean that this is the job that the person should actually pursue. It also, in these interests, they also, during this portion of the evaluation, with this type of testing, it promotes self-exploration. It gives them the motivation, and then this is something that they're doing on their own. Now, one of those type of evaluations is the strong interest inventory, which measures their vocational interests. The things that they have an interest, the things that they would like to do. The other one is the self-directed search, which is based upon Holland's theory. Now, this self-directed search is something that they tend to do on their own, and they review the results and look at what the results are on it, and they're left to interpret what the result says. I, as a professional, would encourage you because you're considered the trained person. You're the educated person. You are trained on this in career counseling and vocational guidance. I encourage you to meet with them and explain those results to them because sometimes people can look at them and get confused or get things, their interpretation could just be off and they think that this is an agreement and this is what they should do. But I encourage you as the trained person to look at those results and interpret those results with them. Work samples. I'm sorry. Uh, okay. Work samples. They're designed to assess an individual's vocational aptitudes, their work temperaments, their vocational interests, their hand dexterity, physical tolerance, standing or sitting, work habits, and learning style. Within the vocational evaluation. Some of these things will be assessed. There are different types of tests that persons might do. There might be the use of, they're testing their hand-eye coordination. They may have little pegs that they have that they're put into the little hole, and they'll put in a spot that's designated. They're seeing how fast they can do those things. So this is a really, really, really good opportunity for you to assess some things about the individual's ability to accomplish tasks that are related to the job that they Work have samples. Work expressed an samples. Interest in. The Valpar Component Work Sample Series. Now, this is a 16 work samples that relate to aptitudes needed, physical demands, and general educational development. Some of the 16 samples include like small tools, size discrimination, numerical sorting, body range and motion, eye, hand, foot coordination. These are some things that an individual might do at the vocational evaluation that they're using to assess their abilities. This is just another tool, okay? Situational assessments. If you have an individual that has some type of severe disability, or you're having, or you're finding it to be quite challenging for this, to finding a suitable employment goal for this individual, a situational assessment might work best. This is an evaluation of individuals working in community rehabilitation programs, formerly called sheltered workshops. This assesses their work potential in such areas as acceptance supervision, getting along with coworkers, staying on task, sustain productivity for 8 hours. Now, the thing here is this is a sheltered workshop. So these are for individuals that are very, very severe. When they go in, they work with other persons that might have a diagnosis that's similar to theirs or whatever, but they are in a very, very supervised type of situation where they are receiving strict supervision. Someone's watching them at all times. Now, for individuals that you might find or you think that are their condition or the impediments that they have to work are too just, I mean, too severe, and you just feel like, I don't know if this person can do anything ever at all, this situational assessment would work well with those individuals. Ecological assessment. When we're looking at ecological, we're looking at things that are more like in their environment. Um, these are situations where individuals, again, have some type of severe impediment to employment, or they have severe limitations in several of the functional capacity areas. What might work best for them could be where you're evaluating them out in the work environment. It could be supported employment or on the job evaluation. Now, supported employment requires that an individual have a job prior to receiving. What's going to happen is going to be, there's going to be a job coach that's going to go out that's going to work with them. Um, they're going to have someone that will follow up with them after the job coaching has started to dissipate to 0 hours. They have someone that will be actually working with them. And this is used to evaluate what a person can do with necessary social and vocational supports. So they have a support system there. And you'll find that oftentimes many employers are open to this, because if you're sending them there for supported employment, the employer won't have to actually do any of the coaching. There's a job coach that the vocational rehabilitation counselor will pay to go out and do the work with them, and they'll work with them with the employer. and work with them on their skills. And employers are open to this. Many are, because they wind up getting a quality employee that they don't have to spend a lot of time training. On the job evaluation, that assesses the individual in the actual work setting, which is similar to supported employment, but it's different because they don't have the job coach. The support system is definitely different for on the job evaluations. In the end, the vocational evaluation report is what you'll get after you've contracted someone to complete this particular evaluation. If you don't have someone within your agency doing them, the vocational evaluation report is an effective, comprehensive report providing data relevant to the development of an appropriate rehab plan or a rehab employment goal. Okay? This is where you say, well, hmm, you would like to attend college and your employment goal is to be a pediatric nurse. However, the vocational rehabilitation counselor can't support this employment goal because the vocational evaluation indicates that there are some deficits in some other areas. Maybe you should possibly look at becoming an LPN or a nurse. Remember this one thing though, when you're discussing this report and this evaluation. Consumers have informed choice. They can decide to go with that employment goal, or they can say, no, I don't want to do it. I want to pursue a career as a pediatric nurse. This is what I want to do. Now, at that point, you have to look at your policies and you'll have to, of the agency and the guidelines they have in place, but you'll always have a supervisor that you can speak with when you're at a novice level. I worked as a vocational rehabilitation counselor. I had individuals that came in, but by the time we got to the point that we were discussing the vocational evaluation, I had built such a good rapport with them that they were receptive to the things that I would say and the things on the report because many times it was affirmation for them of some things they already knew. And sometimes there were many, many surprises where they didn't realize their strengths because many of the individuals that I dealt with that came in that had some type of disability, they were accustomed to being talked about or people discussing their weaknesses, where the deficits were. So this report many times was a good thing for them. Now, the one thing about this evaluation, it should not contain any vague or ambiguous recommendations. If it does, send it back. It should clearly specify feasible employment or vocational objectives. You'll find that this will be one of the better tools that you will have. Now, what I would like for you to do is to review the case in Table 6.4 at the end of the chapter. That's the end. If you have any questions, be sure to go to Blackboard, ask the instructor. You have a great day.